Healthy crops, a natural feature of good land. The intense development of agriculture is favoured by climatic conditions and close application of scientific methods. This land was once highly productive. Now it is barren and sterile because of salt encroachment, a dire result of an unfavourable moisture balance in the soil. Under low rainfall conditions, salt removal is negligible. Salt may accumulate beyond the capacity of the country to eliminate it. In the eastern wheat belt of Western Australia, there are large areas of salt land affected to varying degrees. Some of this land is only slightly affected and maintains a partial grass cover of salt-tolerant plants of the annual type. Other areas are completely devastated. In Western Australia, soil salinity has occurred in the agricultural areas where dry land farming is practiced. This is the main area in which soil salinity is a problem. About 1% of the land is affected. The salt-affected soils occur largely in the valleys of present or ancient river systems. Because of a geological uplift, many of the valleys are no longer active rivers, but have become a system of salt lakes. The problem can be aggravated by poor land management. In salt-affected areas, salt accumulation at the surface of the soil and in the root zone causes plants to die. Native vegetation, which is more resilient to these conditions, may also be in a dying state. A rising salt water table has been the cause of destroying native scrub in this drainage valley. Sand fire alone has survived. The salt exercises a chemical effect on the soil, which results in its becoming loose and powdery. It is then easily shifted and may pile up around surrounding scrub. Erosive action by wind and water, if allowed to continue, will cause severe devastation. Valuable acres of good land may thus become lost to the purpose of farming. Such areas are an eyesore, a glaring disfigurement of the landscape. With appropriate management, however, they may often be brought back usefully into production. This particular field was once completely bare and denuded. Proper action by the farmer has converted it to a more enduring purpose. What then are the steps in the reclamation of salt land? The first step in salt land management is grazing control. The bare, salty surface on one side of this fence has resulted from excessive grazing. Without adequate grazing control, sheep tend to congregate on the salt areas and rapidly reduce them to a bare state. Severe erosion can often follow such destruction of plant cover. For this reason, sheep are a hazard and can be the undoing of all efforts during the critical stages of reclamation. Grazing control is therefore extremely important. The second step in salt land reclamation is cultivation. This area is bare and windswept. No seeds are retained on the surface. With furrowing, however, seeds may be trapped. The blowing seeds, in this case, have been effectively trapped by the furrows in the ground. There are seeds of many salt-tolerant plants being carried by the wind during summer and roughening of the soil enables them to gain a foothold. Water poured on a smooth, bare, salty ground will spread easily, but will not penetrate in an effective manner. By breaking the surface of the soil or roughening it, water soaks in easily instead of spreading. Thus the effect of roughening may be shown diagrammatically as follows. The large amount of salt at the surface of a bare, badly affected area causes a seal against the entry of water. Rain falling on this surface does not penetrate. It evaporates, leaving dry, salty soil beneath. Cultivation disrupts the surface seal and allows rain to penetrate. The rainwater washes the salt down. This condition is temporary during the winter. The removal of salt, although temporary, allows plant seeds to germinate. Suitable salt-tolerant plants are sown and established during the winter. After grazing control and cultivation, sow suitable salt-tolerant plants. The type of plant desired depends upon many factors, but the main consideration is the severity of salt encroachment. Sometimes the land is only slightly affected. In this case, with elimination of grazing and roughening of the surface, plants such as curly ryegrass will readily colonize these areas. Plantings of cereals and Wimmera ryegrass can reclaim mildly salt-affected soils, provided correct planting techniques and good grazing management are employed. Fertilizer is being added for the preparation for this course of treatment. Planting should not be carried out until the main winter rains have arrived. The area will gradually respond to the growing of crops. Seed for annuals of moderate salt tolerance may be readily purchased. They include barley, oats, and cereal rye. But a period of careful cultivation and management is essential. This sloping area was once salt-affected and suffering from erosion gutters caused by running water. However, with repeated sowing of cereal rye and Wimmera ryegrass, it has been largely reclaimed. This salt-affected area has been reclaimed with barley and Wimmera ryegrass. Oats may also be used, but wheat is not favoured. If the area is severely affected, however, it may be more rewarding to establish salt-tolerant perennials. The root systems of perennials are usually deeper and extend below the level of salt concentration. An area like this would have been better planted with perennials. In very salty areas, this type of working is cheap and very effective in initiating plant growth. This is a field of blue bush, the most valuable salt-tolerant perennial which can be established by this means. One of the most valuable attributes of blue bush is its bountiful supply of seed. Scattered by the wind, it spreads naturally. Among the tallest of the salt bushes is old man saltbush. It produces a considerable bulk of palatable feed. Seeds are found in bunches on the female bushes, but are not easily spread by the wind. Artificial seed dispersal is essential. The third of these perennials is creeping saltbush, which can also be quite useful on salty soil. It grows with a creeping habit lying flat on the ground. The dark red-brown seeds are spread mainly by stalk. When the bushes die out after 2 years or so, they are replaced by new seedlings. Creeping saltbush is extremely palatable, but may be grazed out if adequate care is not exercised. In the very wet drainage lines where blue bush or salt bush will not grow readily, sandfire invades of its own accord. It is extremely salt tolerant. Sandfire grows well if it is protected from grazing. While being nutritious, stock are only able to utilize it to a small extent, and it is easily killed out by excessive grazing. On drier, salty soils, productive stands of blue bush, old man saltbush and creeping saltbush may be established. Blue bush is most favored because of its quick spread by natural dispersion, its higher productivity, and resistance to grazing. Let us examine how we may introduce blue bush on a severely affected soil. This is checkerboard ploughing. It is a cheap and effective way of obtaining a rough surface to trap blue bush seed. The furrows retain water as well as seed. As a consequence, the chances of wind erosion are greatly reduced. Seed should be spread along the furrows at normal seeding time, that is, after the main opening winter rains. Once a few blue bushes are established, they can be thickened up until a complete cover is obtained. Every effort should be made to catch the blowing seeds. The manner in which they are trapped is obvious enough. Blue bush and saltbush seeds should be sown on the surface of roughened ground. They should not be buried. These plants have emerged from the seeds that have been retained by furrowing. The method used and the implement employed to obtain a rough surface is not important. The main objective is to achieve a surface which will catch the seed, and this should be done with as little cost as possible. Even hay bales spread on this area have resulted in the catching of seed and the growth of seedlings. Seed will catch around any kind of obstruction. Here, blue bush plants have resulted from the seed caught behind pieces of dead wood. This natural blue bush seed dispersal by wind is valuable. Any roughening or obstruction will retain seed. Bare ground in blue bush areas should also be maintained in a rough condition to catch seeds. Progressively, further plants will become established. Over a period of years, with careful grazing, the ultimate aim of obtaining a dense blue bush stand will be achieved. Blue bush is nutritious. It will provide valuable green summer seed. The three important steps in salt land reclamation are, first, grazing control. Second, cultivation. And third, sow suitable salt-tolerant plants.